Today's subject is the ultimate goal of life. It is essential for a healthy, balanced, and fruitful life that its goal is clearly decided. Unfortunately, not many people have a clear idea of the purpose of life. They are thrown into life as it were by circumstances and go on drifting in the direction in which life may take them. There is a large mass of people living below the poverty line who have to struggle for existence. They spend their whole life in an attempt to make both ends meet. For the second group of people who are a little better off, the aim of life is sense enjoyment. They earn to spend for their personal enjoyments. A small minority of people is active and enterprising and like to work for personal gain or for others' welfare. A still smaller group is in search for knowledge. Their goal is learning. And finally, rare few struggle for salvation, that is mukti. Sri Krishna in the Gita says that out of a million, one perchance strives for fulfillment, and rare among such attain the highest goal of life. The case of the great masters of mankind is different. They were extremely sensitive and introspective, and were not satisfied with the mundane life led by the masses. The inexorable truth of death and suffering did not allow them to rest content, and they became restless to find higher meaning of life. Prophets and teachers of humanity like Buddha, Christ, Mahavir all belong to this category. They have set before humanity in clear terms the ultimate goal of human life, attaining which we can attain fulfillment. This was done in the present times by Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. According to Sri Ramakrishna, the goal of life is to see God. One can see and talk with God as we see and talk with others, and to attain to such a state of intimacy with God is, according to Sri Ramakrishna, the ultimate purpose of life. According to Swami Vivekananda, each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. The Holy Mother, Sri Sarada Devi, while accepting the goal of God realization as taught by Sri Ramakrishna, has emphasized the state of desirelessness. If one has to pray, one must pray for being free from desires, she said. Among the great teachers, the Buddha and Patanjali can be mentioned. For the Buddha, the goal of life is to go beyond suffering, which is also called nirvana. Patanjali states that by the control of thought waves, the Purusha or the conscious entity in us gets established in its real nature, free from the entanglements of Prakriti. This, according to him, is the goal. There appears to be an apparent contradiction in the goals set before us by these various great masters. One emphasizes the need to realize God, while the other denies God and asks us to go beyond all suffering. The third asks us to search for and manifest the divinity of our soul, whereas the fourth teacher tells us to control our mind. Thus, there appears a contradiction in the teachings of these great masters. Is it really so? Can they not be reconciled? This question is important not only philosophically but also for practical reasons. A little deeper thought would show us that there is no contradiction in these apparently different aims. They appear different because They have been stated in different contexts. Our knowledge depends upon and is associated with the object to be known, the knower, mind, and knowledge. Referring to the known, Sri Ramakrishna says that the goal of life is to realize God. Swami Vivekananda's statement refers to the individual, the knower, who, according to him, is potentially divine, to manifest which divinity is the goal of life. Patanjali and the Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi are referring to the mind, the instrument of knowledge, which must be controlled and made desirelessness. The Buddha's approach is thoroughly practical. Without getting into the controversy of the existence of the soul or God, he offers a solution for the universally well-known problem of suffering. Thus, the goals of life have been set differently in different contexts. Each individual is free to choose whichever goal appeals to him, but few questions still remain to be discussed. Will I be able to manifest my divine nature if I control my mind, as advocated by Patanjali? How does manifestation of one's divinity relate to God realization? And after all, what is the relation between God realization and cessation of all suffering or nirvana? If these are mere figures of speech or mere modes of expression for one and the same truth, why should these statements be so different? The fact is that they are indeed mere modes of expression and point to one and the same goal or purpose of life. None can see God without controlling the mind or without becoming desireless. Manifestation of one's divinity and nirvana, as taught by Buddha, are actually one and the same. None can realize or see God without manifesting one's own divine nature, and for one having the direct vision of God, realization of one's real nature and destruction of all suffering automatically occurs. In other words, all these different states and experiences are dependent on each other. They are not only not contradictory but complementary. A spiritual aspirant can discover this truth fully only on attaining the ultimate goal of life. But even short of attaining this highest experience, one can at least partially confirm the validity of this interrelationship in one's spiritual life. Let us try to understand this from the viewpoint of different types of spiritual aspirants. An aspirant with a philosophical and rational bent of mind might proceed on the path of Jnana Yoga by self-inquiry with the help of discrimination between self and non-self. As long as his body consciousness is strong, he will feel that he is the body, his mind too will be restless, and the external world will appear real to him. To the extent he realizes that he is not the body but a pure conscious entity, to that extent his mind too will become quiet. Not only this, the outer world too will appear to him less real than before. Finally, he will realize that he, the conscious soul, is separate from the body-mind complex, and the world would appear unreal like a dream. His mind too will become absolutely calm and desireless. Perhaps someone interested in Raja Yoga practices Ashtanga Yoga, the Eightfold Path of meditation, and tries to control his mind. As he proceeds onwards on this path, he will find that to the extent he is able to control his mind and make it pure, to that extent the world starts appearing more and more unreal to him. And he will also realize his real nature as Atman, the pure consciousness. A devotee singing the glories of his beloved Lord and chanting his name will find that as he is nearing his divine beloved, his mind too is becoming calm and his body consciousness and attachment to the physical body too is getting less. And all three types of aspirants will also find their sorrows and sufferings getting less. Any spiritual aspirant can experience himself this interrelatedness of different types of spiritual practices in few years. This unity of ultimate realization and interrelatedness and conveyance of various techniques of spiritual practice has an important practical application. If bhakti or devotion helps in controlling the thought waves, why should I not combine it with my efforts at concentration of mind and meditation? Or if one has chosen primarily the path of devotion, why should he not also do self introspection and discrimination between the self and non self? That will further add to his bhakti. Similarly, a spiritual aspirant following the path of discrimination, that is Jnana Yoga, can also fortify his practice of discrimination between self and non self with devotion or bhakti and practice of concentration and meditation. He would then proceed faster towards the goal. As Swami Vivekananda has said, the goal is to manifest the divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. Do this by work, by worship, by philosophy, or by psychic control. We may do it by one or more, but best would be to do it by a synthesis of all the four, because thus all our facilities, intellectual, emotional, physical, and psychical, are maximally utilized. Om Santi 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 Hari Om Tat Sat.